The crystalline spires of the Valerian royal palace stretched toward 3 moons, their surfaces shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. I adjusted my formal envoy robes, trying to calm my nerves as the massive doors groaned open. This was supposed to be a routine diplomatic visit, humanity's first formal contact with the Valerian Empire. Nothing more. The grand hall sprawled before me like a cathedral carved from starlight itself. Thousands of courtiers lined the pathway to the throne, their navy blue skin adorned with intricate silver markings that denoted rank and lineage. The air hummed with melodic conversation, a language that sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. I walked forward, my human footsteps oddly loud against the polished floor. The music swelled, strange instruments that seemed to play light itself into harmony. I kept my eyes forward, focused on the diplomatic protocols drilled into me during months of preparation. Then I saw her. Princess Lyrie sat upon the throne of living crystal, and the universe contracted to just the space between us. Her navy blue skin seemed to glow with an inner radiance, and her blonde hair, rare among her people, cascaded over her shoulders like molten gold against midnight sky. She wore robes of deep crimson threaded with silver, and a crown of starfire rested upon her brow. Our eyes met. The color drained from her face, her vibrant blue skin turning almost lavender. Her lips parted in a gasp that echoed in the suddenly silent hall. The music died as if someone had severed its strings. Every head turned toward their princess, then followed her unwavering gaze to me. I froze, uncertain what protocol I'd violated. Had I looked at her too directly? Was I contact forbidden? But Lyrie stood, trembling, one hand pressed to her chest. Her violet eyes, wide with something between wonder and terror, never left my face. The silence grew so complete I could hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. "It cannot be," she whispered, her voice carrying in the acoustically perfect hall. She spoke in perfect English, though I'd been told she knew no human languages. The prophecy, the starborn guardian. An elderly advisor rushed to her side, speaking urgently in Valerian. But Lyrie pushed past him, descending the throne steps with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly. Courtiers parted before her like water, their expressions ranging from shock to awe. She approached me slowly, as if I might vanish like smoke. When she stood before me, barely an arm's length away, I could see tears gathering in her eyes. Her hand lifted, trembling, reaching toward my face but stopping just short of touching. "You came back," she breathed. "After 3,000 years, you finally came back." I opened my mouth to explain that there must be some mistake, but the words died when she placed her hand over my heart. Warmth flooded through me, not just physical heat, but something deeper, older, like a memory I'd never actually lived. The throne room erupted into chaos. Advisors shouted over each other, guards moved toward us with hands on their weapons, and courtiers whispered frantically. But Lyrie seemed oblivious to it all, her hand still pressed against my chest, her eyes searching my face with desperate intensity. "Princess Lyrie," I managed, finding my voice despite the electricity crackling between us. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm just a diplomatic envoy from Earth. My name is Marcus Chen, and I've never been to Velar before today." Something flickered in her expression, confusion, pain, and then sudden understanding. "You don't remember," she said softly. "Of course you wouldn't. The cycle demands forgetting." She turned to address the assembled court, her voice ringing with authority. "Clear the hall. Everyone except the High Council." The chief advisor, a tall Valerian with elaborate silver markings covering his navy blue skin, stepped forward. "Your Highness, this is highly irregular. We cannot simply." "That is a royal command, Counselor Theron." Lyrie's tone left no room for argument. "What transpires now concerns ancient oaths and prophecies older than our recorded history. The court need not bear witness to matters beyond their understanding." Slowly, reluctantly, the courtiers began filing out. I stood frozen, acutely aware of Lyri's proximity, the way her blonde hair caught the crystalline light, the warmth still radiating from where her hand had touched me. When only a dozen elderly Valerians remained, the High Council, I assumed, Lyri finally stepped back. "Come," she said, extending her hand to me. "There is something you must see." Every instinct told me to demand explanations, to insist on contacting my diplomatic team. But when I looked into her violet eyes, I saw such profound hope mixed with sorrow that I found myself placing my hand in hers. Her skin was warm, impossibly soft, and the moment our palms touched, images flashed through my mind. Battles fought beneath alien stars. A city burning. A figure standing before a dying sun, arms outstretched in sacrifice. And always, always, the same face looking back at me, my face, but not quite. Older. Harder. Marked by centuries I hadn't lived. Lyri led me through corridors of living crystal, the council following at a respectful distance. We descended into depths I suspected few living beings had ever seen. The air grew thick with age and power, and the walls began to pulse with symbols I somehow recognized though I'd never studied Valerian script. Finally, we emerged into a circular chamber. At its center stood a statue carved from black stone that seemed to drink in light. The figure depicted was unmistakably human, dressed in armor that looked both ancient and futuristic, one hand raised toward the sky, the other clutching a blade of pure starlight. The face was mine. 3,000 years ago, Lyri began, her voice echoing in the sacred space, Velar stood on the brink of annihilation. A cosmic plague swept through our system, corrupting everything it touched, planets, stars, even the fabric of space itself. We were dying, and we knew no salvation existed. She moved closer to the statue, her fingers trailing along its base where symbols glowed faintly. Then he came. A guardian from the stars, human in form but wielding power beyond our comprehension. He fought the plague for 40 days and 40 nights. He sealed the corruption within our dying sun, saving our world but condemning himself to burn with it. Lyri turned from the statue to face me, tears streaming down her navy blue cheeks, catching the faint light like diamonds. Before he entered the sun, he came to my ancestor, the first Princess Lyri. She was the only one he'd allowed close during his battle, the only one who'd seen past his stoic warrior exterior to the compassionate soul beneath. Counselor Theron stepped forward, his ancient voice carrying the weight of recorded history. The texts say they had only 3 days together, but in that time, a bond formed that transcended species, time, even death itself. He told her that his essence would scatter across the stars, that he would be reborn in fragments across the cosmos, living human lives with no memory of what he'd been. And she asked him, another counselor continued, an elderly woman with white markings across her skin, if he would ever return. He said yes, when Velar needed him most, when the threads of fate aligned, when a princess bearing the first Lyri's soul looked upon his reborn face. I stared at the statue, at my own features carved in eternal stone. This is insane. Reincarnation, cosmic guardians, these are myths, stories. I'm just a man. I was born on Earth, raised in New Seattle, studied xenodiplomacy at the academy. My parents were teachers. I've never wielded a sword in my life, let alone saved a planet. Lyri crossed the distance between us in 3 steps, taking both my hands in hers. I know this seems impossible. But Marcus, when you looked at me, did you feel nothing? No recognition, no pull? I wanted to deny it, but I couldn't. The moment our eyes met, something had shifted in my chest, a sensation like finding something I'd been searching for my entire life without knowing I was looking. And when she touched me, those visions. The visions you saw, Lyri said, as if reading my thoughts, were mine. Through touch, I can share memories, a gift passed down through my bloodline. What you experienced were echoes of what the first Lyri witnessed. His final stand. His sacrifice. She released one of my hands to press her palm against my chest again, and this time I didn't resist the flood of images. I saw the ancient guardian, saw myself, standing before a princess who looked exactly like Lyri. Saw the tenderness in his eyes as he held her beneath strange stars. Saw his lips on hers in a goodbye that tasted of stardust and sorrow. Saw him promise to return. When the vision faded, I was breathing hard, and Lyri was closer still, her forehead nearly touching mine. "We don't have to understand it all at once," she whispered. "But I felt it the moment you entered this palace, a completion I've been waiting my entire life for without knowing why. Every princess before me was told the prophecy, told to watch for the starborn guardian. Most never believed. But I. You believed," I finished. "I dreamed of him, of you, since I was a child. Dreams so vivid I'd wake with the taste of starfire on my tongue and the echo of your voice in my ears." Her hand slid from my chest to cup my face, her touch gentle despite the intensity in her eyes. "Tell me you feel nothing, Marcus Chen of Earth, and I'll let you go. I'll tell the council it was mistaken identity, let you return to your diplomatic mission. But tell me true. I should have lied. Should have stepped back, maintained professional distance, remembered my training. Instead, I found myself leaning into her touch, my hand rising to cover hers against my cheek. I feel like I've been walking through a dream my whole life," I admitted, "and only just woke up when I saw you." The council chambers had been prepared for us, a private space where Lyri and I could speak without the weight of 1,000 eyes upon us. Soft bioluminescent orbs floated near the ceiling, casting gentle light across cushions and low tables laden with refreshments I couldn't identify. Lyri had changed from her formal robes into something simpler, a flowing gown of deep purple that made her navy blue skin seem to shimmer. She'd removed her crown, and her blonde hair fell freely around her shoulders. She looked younger this way, more vulnerable, and achingly beautiful. "Tell me about your life," she said, pouring a luminescent liquid into crystal cups. "I want to know everything about the man you are now, not just the shadow of who you were." So I did. I told her about growing up in New Seattle's vertical gardens, about my parents' small apartment filled with books from 100 worlds. About discovering xenodiplomacy in university, driven by a fascination with alien cultures I'd never been able to explain. About the rigorous training, the careful preparation for first contact. I always felt like I was searching for something, I confessed, accepting the cup she offered. Our fingers brushed, and that electric warmth sparked between us again. Like there was somewhere I was supposed to be, something I was supposed to do. My instructors said it was just ambition, but it felt deeper than that. Lyri curled up on the cushions across from me, her violet eyes never leaving my face. The soul remembers what the mind forgets. The ancient texts speak of this, how fragments of past lives echo through our current existence, manifesting as unexplained passions, irrational fears, or profound yearnings. "And you?" I asked. "What was your life like before today?" A shadow crossed her features. "Lonely," she admitted. "My parents died when I was young, a shuttle accident. I was raised by the council, groomed for leadership but never truly understood. They thought my dreams of the Guardian were childhood fantasies I'd outgrow. When I didn't, they worried I was unfit to rule." She set down her cup and moved closer, settling beside me on the cushions. "I've had suitors, of course. Princes and nobles from across Velar. But every time one touched me, tried to court me, I felt nothing. Worse than nothing, wrong. Like I was betraying someone, though I couldn't say who." "Were you waiting for me?" The question came out softer than intended. "I didn't know what I was waiting for," Lyri said. "Only that I would recognize it when it came." She reached up, fingers ghosting along my jaw. "And then you walked into that throne room, and Marcus, it was like the universe finally made sense." I caught her hand, holding it against my face. "This is happening so fast. We just met." "Did we?" She shifted closer still, until I could feel the warmth radiating from her skin, could see the silver flecks in her violet eyes. Or have we known each other across lifetimes? Is it truly fast, or have we been moving toward this moment for 3,000 years? There was no good answer to that. So instead of speaking, I let my actions respond. I closed the distance between us, my free hand sliding into her silken blonde hair, and pressed my lips to hers. The kiss started gentle, tentative, a question asked and answered. But then Lyrie made a soft sound in the back of her throat, her hands fisting in my shirt, and something wild and ancient ignited between us. The careful diplomat in me vanished, replaced by instincts I didn't know I possessed. I pulled her closer, and she came willingly, fitting against me like she'd been designed for this exact purpose. Her skin was impossibly warm, and everywhere we touched, that electric sensation intensified. My hands found the small of her back, feeling the subtle ridges of silver markings through the thin fabric of her gown. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Lyrie's eyes had darkened to a deeper violet, and her navy blue skin seemed to glow from within. The text spoke of this too, she whispered against my lips. How the bond would manifest physically, how touching him would awaken memories in her body that her mind had forgotten. And is it? I asked, trailing kisses along her jaw to the elegant curve of her neck. Awakening memories? Yes, she gasped as I found a sensitive spot where her neck met her shoulder. But also creating new ones. Better ones. Marcus, I. A sharp knock at the door interrupted us. We pulled apart reluctantly as Counselor Theron's voice called from outside. Your Highness, forgive the intrusion, but the Earth delegation is demanding to speak with Envoy Chen. They're threatening to declare this a hostage situation. Reality crashed back. I'd been in the palace for hours without reporting in. My team would be panicking, possibly preparing for diplomatic, or military, intervention. Lyrie stood, straightening her gown and attempting to smooth her disheveled hair. We need to address this carefully. If Earth perceives you as being held against your will, then we tell them the truth, I said, standing beside her. Or at least, a version of it. That we've discovered a historical connection between our peoples, one that requires further study and discussion. She took my hand, squeezing gently. And the rest? The prophecy, the bond, us? I pulled her close one more time, savoring the perfect fit of her in my arms. The rest is ours to figure out. Together. The next hours were a blur of diplomatic maneuvering. My delegation was skeptical but relieved to find me unharmed. Lyrie presented historical records, the ancient texts, even arranged for me to undergo Valerian memory sharing with the council to prove the visions weren't manufactured. By the time 3 of Velar's moons hung high in the night sky, a tentative agreement had been reached. I would remain on Velar as a cultural liaison, studying the connection between the ancient guardian and modern humanity. The official story would focus on historical research and strengthening human-Valerian relations. Only Lyrie and I knew the deeper truth. Later, standing on her private balcony overlooking the Crystal City, she leaned against me as I wrapped my arms around her from behind. Do you think the prophecy is truly fulfilled? She asked. Or is this just the beginning? I pressed a kiss to her temple, breathing in the sweet scent of her hair. I think prophecies are less about destiny and more about choice. Maybe I am the reincarnation of your ancient guardian. Maybe I'm just a man who fell impossibly hard for an alien princess the moment I saw her. Either way, I'm choosing this. Choosing you. Lyrie turned in my arms, her face tilted up to mine. Then choose me again. Every day. In this life and whatever comes after. Every day, I promised, sealing the vow with a kiss that tasted of starlight and new beginnings. Below us, the palace hummed with whispered speculation about the human envoy and their princess. Above us, 3 moons bore witness to a love that had waited 3,000 years to bloom again. And between us, in the space where 2 hearts beat as one despite the gulf of species and stars, the future of 2 worlds began to take shape. Some bonds, it seemed, truly were written in the stars. The end.